Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins-Treworgy, also known as Byron Insidious. I'm sure that there's some of you, like myself, who hopped on Substack today, or possibly even X or Facebook or wherever, and you were confronted with this headline or this image. I'll hold it there for a moment. When I first saw it, I thought, well, that seems a bit over the top, even for an outlet as fringe left as The Atlantic. And after reading through some comments and looking at people's interactions, discovering that a lot of people have pointed out, hey, this has already been proven to have been a fabrication. This was false. I then did a little bit more digging around. It was pointed out by several outlets, including Snopes, Lead Stories, NPR, and a couple of others, that when they used the Atlantic's internal / on-site search tool, they couldn't find this Debbie Goldstein or this headline. Just a quick point something out, folks. That's akin to doing the whole, well, our office has been accused of corruption, so we've investigated ourselves and have discovered we didn't do anything wrong. Nobody trusts that, all right? It's not the best metric for figuring out whether or not something has been fabricated or false in this case. If the Atlantic is accused of having put something like this on their service or on their site, it might be best, if you're trying to defend the Atlantic, to not use the Atlantic's on-site search tool to defend them, because who else but them is going to say, well, maybe we need to hide this or bury it because now there's a lot of unwanted attention on this shit. They're going to be the first suspect. That's the first tool I would eliminate as something to turn to as saying, hey, we can use this to prove that this didn't happen. You're going to go to the people who are accused of putting this out there and say, hey, can you help me prove that you didn't do this? Don't ask the suspect. Investigate them separately. That's what people with 3 brain cells to knock together do. I'd also like to point out at these outfits that were trying to defend the Atlantic or disprove this screenshot, used on several occasions Google search results and Google News scraping to look for the author's name on the Atlantic website in 2025. Well, that's a weak argument because A, why didn't you look for her possibly showing up in any prior year of publication, particularly when the Atlantic themselves came out and said, just to clarify, this was a parodic misrepresentation or reinterpretation of something that was said in another article prior to 2025. Okay, then you need to go look prior to 2025 to see if this faux contributor may actually be a real contributor who showed up prior to 2025. You've been given a clarification to adjust your parameters for searching. Why not do that? Also, why rely on Google as your, well, see, we used Google and we couldn't find anything? Because, and I question that because Google is a company whose services have been proven on numerous occasions over the course of the last at least 10 to 12 years to be exceedingly left-leaning, heavily biased against conservatives and right-leaning persons who would believe this kind of headline. All right? Google has been integral to propagandizing Americans to view liberal and or progressive programs and initiatives and worldviews as favorable. Lead Stories is especially guilty of this, citing the Atlantic's internal search and Google tools on 3 separate occasions in its rundown. Now here's the thing. I'm willing to believe that the whole thing was fake and fabricated. I'm willing to buy that it's completely false, because my initial response was, wait, That seems too far even for the Atlantic. However, based on years of the Atlantic, the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, MSDNC, Pre-Musk Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, the Seattle Intelligencer, the Minnesota Star Tribune, the Rolling Stone, LA Times, Vanity Fair, et fucking cetera, proceeding to lie to and gaslight the Western world to defend and promote left wing rhetoric and nonsense at every turn from every station of highfalutin academia and media coverage and commentariat. I'm also not shocked that people were willing and able, thanks to pattern recognition and pattern recognition and historical precedent and repeated behavior, to see that this was framed up to look like an article from the Atlantic. I can't blame people for reading that unhinged headline and subheader and saying to themselves, yeah, seems like exactly the sort of thing that someone at the Atlantic would write and that they would probably publish and that they would probably believe. Nobody on Substack should be surprised that if it had been true either, given Mariska Cabas and Jonathan Katz, both of whom, and on behalf of The Atlantic, tried to lead the charge to bring censorship to the Substack platform via their SAN initiative. I haven't forgotten about that shit and what they tried to do. When people in academia and in the establishment media centers pretend to be shocked at how low the average American's opinion is of them in terms of their trustworthiness and their honesty, they should not be shocked, because they have been conditioning us for years to not trust them, because every time they get caught being deceptive and engaging in duplicitous, two-faced, one-sided, two-tier bullshittery, when they get called to the mat, their only response is to flail and say, up. Well, not true, bro. Turns out you were wrong. Do you want us to go through the laundry list of things that you people have lied to us about and the exceedingly high damage value on your ledger versus the other ledger? Because your lies resulted in a massive economic downturn, an unprecedented shifting of financial weight from an enormous wealth transfer from the middle and lower class to the richest people in the fucking world. That was your damage. That's what you people did with your lies. Over here with this Atlantic thing, the Atlantic's reputation is damaged. Nothing of value was lost because they had already damaged their own reputation for years. Sorry, if you want someone to blame for this shit, look in a mirror. Cheers.